In our last episode, we shared the story of betrayal that shook us deeply. And so many of you reached out saying, I have a betrayal story too. We heard your hurt, your questions, and your longing to move forward. Here's the truth. Betrayal leaves scars. It brings shame, guilt, disappointment, isolation, and a deep struggle to trust again. And healing doesn't just happen overnight. It's a process. Grief takes time, but it can also be intentional. And here's the hope we want to give you today. In God's story, betrayal always comes before promotion. We see it in the story of David, Daniel, Joseph, and even Jesus. What looked like the end was actually preparation for the next chapter. Betrayal, if we'll allow it, also has a way to heal parts of our heart that we couldn't get to otherwise. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the real journey of healing after betrayal, how to walk through shame, grief, forgiveness, and trust, and how God can use even your deepest heartbreak to draw you closer to Him and position you for breakthrough. You were created to live abundantly and multiply in every area of your life. But let's be honest, the road isn't always easy.
We know that firsthand. We've been through highs and lows, from losing everything to now managing an investment fund, and we're still on the journey.
This podcast isn't about having it all figured out. It's about real stories, kingdom principles, and trusting God with what's already in your hands.
On Mandate to Multiply, we go deep into faith, family, finances, and other topics, sharing what we've learned and what we're still learning as we walk it out with Jesus.
If you're ready to think bigger, live boldly, and multiply what matters most,
then you're in the right place. We're Jonathan and Melissa Edmiston, and this is Mandate to Multiply.
All right, well, welcome to episode 8.
Hello, hello.
I am one of your hosts, Melissa Edmiston.
I'm Jonathan Edmiston.
My amazing husband. We are actually recording a part 2 today. Part 2 to episode 7, where we shared, 2 weeks ago, we shared our crazy, wild, shocking story of betrayal. And we heard from a lot of you. I was not expecting that amount of feedback. Sometimes I still get kind of shocked when people even tell me they listen or watch, because it's surreal when you put something out into the world to hear people are actually listening. But we heard from a lot of you, and we heard not only that you were shocked and couldn't imagine or couldn't even believe that something like that could happen, but we also heard that a lot of you have also experienced betrayal. And the thing that I think broke our heart the most was that a lot of you are actually still stuck from something that happened as it relates to betrayal or deception. And that really just broke our hearts, because we don't want anybody to stay stuck from something like that.
Yeah, a lot of the comments that we got were, how did you move beyond this? How did you move past it? How did you grieve? How did you get over it? And that's kind of where we just wanted to sit for a minute and discuss. And hopefully our journey will help answer some of your questions and help you get unstuck if you're in a place that you find yourself, you don't know how to move forward.
It also made us realize, just hearing from different people, there was a lot of common themes and common threads. And what we both realized as we were talking the other day is like, oh my goodness, this is clearly a tactic that is used to take us out. Betrayal, deception, getting hurt on that level as it relates to betrayal is actually meant to take us out and rob us of freedom. And we know that the enemy doesn't want us to share this story, because our hope is that we can bring people out of that place. And so, like Jonathan said, that's why we're sharing this. We hope that whatever we share today, this is more about the healing after the betrayal and our process over the last year in doing that.
Yeah, because healing isn't an accident.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process. It takes a lot of intentionality.
Yeah.
And really just sitting at the feet of Jesus and letting Him heal your heart.
Yeah.
Because out of the heart, the Bible has so much to say about the heart. And it's not just the muscle that pumps blood. It's the thing that really controls our lives. And if we allow things to sit in our heart and take root in our heart, then it can really affect every aspect of our lives. So really just healing the heart is so important. But it takes a lot of intention, and it's what God uses a lot of times to shape us.
Yeah.
Into the vessels that He needs us to be in order to accomplish the tasks that He has for us.
Yeah, like Jonathan said, it's a process. It's intentional. It is grieving, but it takes work. And where we don't want you to stay and where we made sure that we didn't stay is in that place of, woe is me, I'm a victim, or feeling just stuck in that place of the consequences of betrayal. There is actual processes and work that we can do to overcome it. But there were definitely common themes in feedback from all of you. In stories, I mean, we heard wild stories of deception, and there was things anywhere from people being stolen from financially to friends betraying friends with their own spouses or attempting to. I mean, it was just wild. We would never share anybody's story personally, but I mean, the stories that we heard just were really eye-opening. But unfortunately, people were still stuck in the consequences of that. And so that's what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, and not to get too much into, the devil is a boogeyman and it's all him, but we definitely see his hand at work in all of this. Human nature hasn't changed since the Garden of Eden, since Adam and Eve. And the enemy knows the things that we're going to trip us up and hold us back and keep us from walking in all that God has for us. And we found that this is one of the things that he's been using to really hold people back. Our hope, our desire is that you can get freedom from whatever's holding you back if you've been a victim of betrayal. So let's talk about some of the struggles that people go through when they're betrayed. And the first one, and one that was really, a lot of people talked about, was shame and guilt. The temptation to blame yourself for what happened. Like we couldn't control somebody else's, what she did to us any more than a lot of you can control what somebody else did to you. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of naiveness that you can carry. You can think to yourself, how did I ever let this happen? Or I should have seen these signs or these red flags or whatever. But, in our case, looking back at it, I mean, I guess there could have been signs, but we just didn't see them.
Yeah, there could have been signs if you look back. Had we done a little bit more in the way of keeping people accountable, asking hard questions, having hard conversations. And this is like a part of what we're going to talk about today, right? Because there is the struggles that come with betrayal, right? That's one thing we want to address. We want to get everybody unstuck in the pain and guilt and shame and all the things that come with betrayal. But then there's the other side of it is, how can God use this? What is he going to do in this moment? What is he going to show you? What is he going to reveal? What are some areas in your heart and in your thinking that maybe you could have avoided or you could have dug in? And this is not to put any blame on anyone, because looking back, I mean, if I had to do it all over again, I would have still invited her to live in my home. I wouldn't have ever changed that, because that's who I am. That's my heart. That's how God created me. I wouldn't change that. What I would do differently is increase my systems and my levels of accountability for people, because we all need it. I would have asked harder questions. I would have kept, so there is that area of like, we don't want to stay in shame and guilt, but we don't want to avoid what God is actually wanting to show us on how to treat situations like this. So there's always questions we can ask, and there's always things that we could have done differently, but nobody saw this coming. We were surrounded by a community of people, hundreds of people in a church, and nobody suspected it. She was in people's homes, spending a lot of time with them. Nobody, it was like not even, a question. So while we can't take blame, we can look at how we could have done things differently. It's kind of two-part.
Yeah. And what happens a lot of times with people that stay in shame and guilt, they adopt this victim mentality.
Yeah. So the other part of it is there's shame and guilt. And then there is also, it's kind of like a flip side is victimhood, where you are just like, what they did to me, woe is me. How could they? I can't believe, what I've had to go through. And you really just get so stuck in victimhood that, it is a form of bondage, because now you can't see past the fact that, yeah, that stinks, but you can move on from there and you can see what you can learn from it and really just forgive quickly and, all the things that come from that. And so in kind of looking at all the feedback and all the things that people came back with, I would say, and we talked about this the other day, is there were like kind of like two camps or two possibilities. You're either stuck in shame and guilt from it and you feel like it's all your fault, or you feel like you're a victim and it's everybody else's fault and you just can't get past the fact that this happened to you.
Yeah.
And both things are dangerous to stay in.
Yeah, disappointment and hurt, that's a natural emotional response to being betrayed, but you can't stay there.
Yeah.
One of the things that we learned through the process was name it to tame it. And when you identify something as being hurtful, like, hey, that hurts me, and you confess that to the person that's hurting you, then it helps tame the situation and helps you move forward.
And just confess it in general. Was that Seth Dahl?
Yeah.
Okay, so shout out to Seth Dahl and credit to him. And we're going to talk about how we healed was very intentional, and we did a lot of work and we saw a lot of wise counsel. We're kind of getting ahead of our time of our notes here, but that's fine. We went through a journey of healing intentionally, and the name it to tame it isn't just to the person who did the wrong. It's actually just period, like in general, right? Because I never went to the person that lived in our house pretending to be pregnant for 9 months and said a word other than I forgave her and I prayed for her. And that's, we're going to talk about in a second, but basically you do have to verbalize very intentionally the way that you're feeling. So it's okay to feel shame. It's okay to feel guilt. It's okay to be disappointed and hurt. Those are all real feelings and we want to acknowledge them. We want to voice them. We just don't want to stay there. And the fourth thing that we noticed as a common theme was isolation. Yeah. So a lot of people that we heard from, because of the betrayal that they walk through, they are now in a place of isolation, whether it's specifically from the group of people that hurt them, or any, let's just say it's church hurt. Now they don't want to go to church. Or if it's something that a friend did, now they don't want to have any friends. If it's, so it's this isolation, and gosh, that's a really dangerous place for us to be. Now, all of these things, go ahead.
And it also creates trust issues. Oh, yeah. And, if we're just being real and transparent and laying it all out there for the world to see, like, I know that you've had a really hard time with bringing in a babysitter so that we can even go out, just the two of us. Yeah. There's still things that we're healing with and walking through from the situation of betrayal that we still haven't come out completely on the other side.
Yeah, that's just real. I mean, all of these things, shame and guilt, disappointment and hurt, isolation and trust, and feeling like a victim, those are all things that we still have come up. And the trust thing, I'm still working through. It's hard for me to bring somebody into my house now. Jonathan will send me somebody on Facebook from a babysitting group and be like, oh, look, so-and-so, they look great. And they have all this. And I'm like, I need to know somebody that knows her. And I need to know 10 people that know them. And because I can't just now bring somebody, a complete stranger, into my home. But again, I've had to really dig in and work on that, because the very area that I feel like I'm called to is to help young girls of the same age and generation. Mm-hmm. So no wonder the enemy would try to attack me by way of trusting 20-somethings in my home. But that's exactly who I'm called to serve and pull out of darkness, because I was once there when I was in my 20s. So of course, shame, or of course, trust and isolation would be something that comes from that point of betrayal. But I have to acknowledge it. And I have to know, and I have to say, okay, I am taking some time, but I'm not going to just completely shut people out and not trust ever again. Yeah. It's just taking me a little bit longer. And have a lot more wisdom now in that area. I know what questions to ask. I know what conversations to have. I'm not afraid of rejection or hard conversations or making somebody uncomfortable and ruffling feathers. Like, I know that tough love is needed and hard questions are needed in order to help somebody grow. It is the only way to truly disciple somebody and help them. So that's kind of a little side note on the trust factor.
But here's what we want you to know. If you're still grieving, still guarded, still wondering how to forgive, you're not alone. We're right there with you. The heartbreak is real. But heartbreak doesn't have to be the end of your story. Yeah. You can walk out of this victoriously and even better than you were going into it. So let's get to the path of healing.
Yeah, let's do that. That's the part we really want to step into. And remember, around our mindset is how we position our hearts and our minds toward betrayal. Okay. If you'll remember the end of our story, if you have not listened to episode 7, please.
This probably makes no sense to you unless you listen to the last one.
You have to pause here and you have to go back and you have to listen to episode 7 because it is a wild story. I believe that there will be a book written, a movie made. Like this is like level 10 entertainment because it's so shocking and crazy, but also like so many deep and rich lessons to be learned. We have to share the story. So you have to go back to episode 7. But if you'll remember, for those of you that did listen to episode 7, at the end, or I told you towards the end of the story that the first thing I did, and this is where your faith muscle is activated in a moment of hurt, pain, trauma, shock, which is what I was in. I was literally in shock. My faith muscle was activated in a moment. And I want to encourage you that the reason it's so important to spend time with Jesus every day, to pray every day, to read your Bible every day, to listen to sermons, to learn about who God is and who you are in Him, what your identity actually is. We do those things so that when we do them for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is when you need your faith, because it's the only thing you have in a moment, it's literally activated like a muscle. And what I did, the first thing I did, and this is not like, oh, I'm so awesome and amazing, because I'm really not. It's Jesus in me. And it's the fact that in that moment, and Jonathan had this moment too, he just wasn't physically there. I was the one there with her. I knew that if I wanted to not hurt somebody and go to jail, and if I wanted to do the right thing and walk out what being a Jesus follower actually looks like, I had to forgive instantly. So step 1 to from betrayal to breakthrough, the first thing we have to do is forgive. If you'll remember what I said was, I walked up to her in the hotel room. We drove by the hotel yesterday. I was like, oh my goodness, this was the hotel that she stayed at the night this happened, because we didn't want her to drive home, or, we wanted to give her an opportunity to do the right thing. And so we paid for a hotel for the night. Our church did, our pastors did. They did the right thing. She stayed in a hotel. I went and got her dinner and I brought it to her and I said, I forgive you. I told her, I forgive you. I love you. And I prayed for her. And I don't remember exactly what I prayed, but I brought Jesus in and the Holy Spirit and I prayed. And so instantly I made a decision to forgive her. And that literally is step 1, is whatever happened, whoever did it, whatever the betrayal is, we don't wait to feel like forgiving. It's a choice. Yeah. And you have to make it instantly. And if you haven't made it yet, that's okay. It's never too late. You can make the decision to forgive right now. But we had to choose to forgive her. And then we had to choose to forgive ourselves. Yeah. Because it's very easy to like immediately shame comes on you. Like, what have I done? Of course, this is all something that didn't happen immediately because I kept thinking of the people. I did walk in shame for a good amount of time, mostly because of the people I allowed to be hurt in the process with me. My children. I mean, I cried. The first time I cried when it happened is because I thought of my boys. I'm like, how could I do this to my boys? How could I allow somebody in my home? And that's the part I'm crying, even though I'm in a much better place, because it's the people that you hurt along the way or that are also hurt with you. So I thought of my boys. I thought of our friends at church. I thought about our pastors. I thought about our family, everybody that we had kind of brought into this whole story. I thought, oh my gosh, like they have to deal with this now too. And so that brought in shame, but I had to forgive her and I had to forgive myself because I knew ultimately I did the right thing and I just had to forgive myself. And I would say it was probably easier to forgive her than it was to forgive myself. That kind of took a little bit longer. And that was a process of walking that out. But forgiveness is definitely the first step. Forgive immediately and then keep forgiving. And the Bible says to bless those that curse you. And we have to bless our enemies. There are still moments when I think of things or text messages will come up in my head that were sent telling me that her grandmother was dying and she was feeling pains in her stomach and like wild stories. And then I find out she's actually on a vacation in like a tropical island with a family that she was nannying for that didn't even think or know. They didn't think she was pregnant. So she was like living 2 different lives. And so when I think of those things, I have to say, I forgive her. And then I pray for her and I bless her. And that takes intentionality. But I know that it is the key and the pathway to freedom. And so it's an ongoing decision, and that's just a choice, but it is like the most important key. What would you add to forgiveness?
Well, I've heard all my life, forgiveness is a gift that you give yourself. Because if you're holding that anger inside or resentment or whatever, the only person that it's hurting is you.
Yeah.
So when you forgive somebody, you're acknowledging the hurt, but you're releasing it, but also towards yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of people that we heard from have a hard time forgiving themselves. And I just want to say to you, if you fall into this category, forgive yourself, let it go, which leads us to number 2 is to give it to God and just sit with Jesus and give it to him. We heard a great message this Sunday at church about being disappointed with Jesus and just being authentic and real, and like he knows anyways. So why do we put on this facade and say, oh Lord, you're so great? Like just be real with him. God, I'm hurting. Like this hurts really, really bad. And just be real with him and let him do the deep work in your heart that he allowed the betrayal to happen so that the work could be done there. And ask him, Lord, what is it that you want me to learn in this? Like when you look at the story of Israel, when they left Egypt, they could have gotten to the promised land. I forget what it was, like 40 days or something. It was such a short distance. But God had to get Egypt out of the people and get in and prepare their hearts to walk into the promises that he had for them. And it just took them a long time because they stayed stuck in the wilderness. And so many of us do this, but God wants us to heal. He wants to heal our broken hearts because he knows what lies on the other side of that brokenness. There's a boldness that can rise up within you, and that comes through worship. It comes through prayer, and it comes through just acknowledging that we don't have all the answers, and we may not know the answers to all the questions, but everything that happens to us happens for his greatest glory and our greatest good.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, give it all to him. And I just really was thinking about this as Jonathan was talking. So I'm going to share it out of obedience. But this situation caused us to lean and rely and go to Jesus more than I ever have in my 15 years as a believer, 16 years. And a month before this happened, I really felt like I was supposed to stop drinking alcohol. And it really didn't make sense because I have a couple drinks on the weekends, special occasions. I wasn't drinking every day. But I really felt so strongly to the point where one day I'm like, I journaled like, Lord, are you asking me to stop drinking? And then like I opened the Bible to start reading, and it was literally a verse about alcohol, like something about not drinking wine. I don't remember which one it was, but it was about, I think it was debauchery, the one that says about drinking wine or debauchery. And I was like, okay, doesn't make sense, but fine. When this happened, I'm like, no wonder. Thank God I stopped drinking. I remember being at the hospital and a couple of my friends were like, we should go have a drink after this. And I'm thinking, God told me to stop drinking because he knew that I might drink myself into oblivion and I didn't even have a drinking problem. But what that did was every time I was upset, emotional, sad, anxious, frustrated, I went to Jesus.
Yeah.
I sat with him. I opened my Bible. I cried and cried and cried and asked questions and journaled and asked and prayed and listened to sermons. And so like when I say give it all to God, I mean like all. Surrender everything. Be at his feet. Ask him questions because there are things he wants to show you and heal through the betrayal. But we have to let him. We can't just shove it down. We can't just ignore. We can't just keep going. We can't just fake it till we make it. Like we have to dig in and really do some deep work.
And that is intentional, which brings us to point number 3, to grieve intentionally. It's not just an accidental process, but it is a process.
It is.
And we need to allow that process to continue its work and choose not to get stuck in the process. We went to therapy.
Yeah.
Individually and together to just help us talk through and process the emotions. And that was kind of the biggest thing, was just talking about it, talking about everything and just laying it all out there and allowing time and conversations to really heal it, not just bury it or stuff it underneath the rug that, a lot of us tend to do, It's talking about it and just processing the emotions.
And I will say to that point, talk about it to Jesus first. Let it all out, journal, talk. And then don't talk to everybody though. Don't just go around telling everybody, because that can kind of feed that victim mentality a little bit. When we say talk to people, we mean wise counsel, pastor, counselor, therapist, mentors, really trusted people, and like a small few. Don't just go around. I mean, we did have to share the story a few times because people wanted to know, but we didn't share all of it and we didn't share it often.
Yeah.
But definitely be intentional about your grieving. Find good therapy or good counseling, your pastor, mentors, and just be really intentional about, okay, this is a process I'm going to go through because the goal is to heal, not to stay stuck.
Yeah.
So grieve, feel all the feels, but walk through it as a process very intentionally.
And then rebuild trust and step into community. So we start with God, then the safe people that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And we remember that betrayal often precedes promotion.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. So again, I believe it's repositioning your mindset around betrayal. I think the way that you rebuild trust is to not fear the very thing that you're trying to hide from. And so if we think of, like we mentioned before, the story of Daniel, he was betrayed, David betrayed, Jesus betrayed, Joseph betrayed. Like, I mean, I want the fruit and the outcome of their lives. And also God doesn't tell us about them by mistake. It's no coincidence that they were all betrayed as part of the process to the promotion. And so now I'm kind of like, okay, Lord, that was a really big betrayal. Are you going to do it again? Like, is it going to happen again? Is it going to be something different? I think I have a friend, her and her husband are very, very successful. And I remember having this conversation with her and she's like, oh yeah, I mean, we just kind of expect that we're going to be betrayed. People talk about us behind our back. People sue us. And she said, but all we can do is keep our eyes fixed on Jesus, and we know that we're doing what he's telling us to do, and we sleep really well at night. And I'm like, that is the level of understanding that we have to have. So for years, I was like trying to protect everybody in my family from betrayal, from deception, from being lied to. I remember telling the girl that lived in our home pretending to be pregnant, one of the first things I ever said to her was, all I ask is that you don't lie to me. Because I hate being lied to. I am like high value for honesty and truth. And yet she was already lying.
Yeah.
She started out lying. And now I have a different level. I'm like, I don't fear people lying to me. I almost kind of, I'm not jaded or hardened by it. I just know that people are humans and they're going to make mistakes and they're going to lie or they're going to fail. And I can't think that I'm going to be that it's not going to happen to us if it happened to Jesus. So I think it's just how we reposition betrayal and not being so afraid of it. And that allows you to build trust, like thinking of bringing young girls into my home again. And I just have to realize that if they do lie to me, if they do something crazy, one, my discernment is a little bit higher now. My wisdom is on another level. And you know what? I pray that they give me the opportunity to disciple them and walk them through it, where I didn't have the opportunity with the last situation. And so I think it's just a matter of remembering that betrayal is a part of the process that God uses before promotion.
Yeah.
And not being so afraid of it.
Yeah, you have here in the notes, healing accelerates when we're not carrying it alone.
So that's about community, right? Yeah. Like we couldn't have healed the way that we have if we were by ourselves. Yeah. There's just no way. I have an amazing community of mentorship and women all across the country. Shout out to my Live Out Loud community and Brooke Thomas, my amazing mentor, friend. Like, I don't know what I would have done without them in that season. Close friends that live in the area. I mean, so many people. We were in community. We had trusted people around us, friends at our previous church. I remember being at church when it first happened, and I said, my head knows that everything's going to be okay and that I just need to like dig in, but my heart is broken. I just need some strength. Yeah. And I remember her saying, this is one of my friends that was actually at the hospital with me when it happened. She said, well, that's what we're here for. We're going to hold up your arms while you can't. And that is why we need to be in community. So my encouragement to you is not only start trusting people again, knowing that betrayal is always used for good and you're a lot smarter than you were when it happened, but also lean into community so that you're not in isolation and not doing it alone.
Yeah, because oftentimes the very people you're isolating yourself from are the very people you're called to help or serve or grow with or be the one for them.
It's so true. I mean, you think of one of the stories I heard of somebody having an issue with a close female friend, her best friend, and it's hard for her now to trust women. Yeah. And I'm like, it breaks my heart because she's probably called to serve women, bless women, be in community with women. And same thing with me and like younger 20-something. So just know that it's not a coincidence you feel like you have to be in isolation or can't be around the very people that hurt you.
Yeah. And the last point is turn that pain into purpose. Ask God, what can you grow in me through this? And use your story to encourage others that are still stuck. That's why we're doing this podcast. That's why we decided to do a part 2 to this, And just like Joseph said in Genesis, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. And that's our hope and prayer for you guys.
Yeah. And oftentimes when you're stuck, there are people waiting on the other side that need your voice, your story, your heart. I could share, Jonathan and I could sit here and share our story, although our story is pretty wild, but everybody has a betrayal story. And we could share our lessons and our process with a group of people. And you could share your story of betrayal with the same group of people. And what you say and how you say it and who you are will affect them and bless them and help them in a way that we can't, and vice versa. So all of our voices are needed. All of our testimonies are needed. It's all to help people that are stuck where you were or maybe where you are and you're going to come out of. So just know that, and I think that's also like one of the most important, I mean, they're all important, but if you realize that there's so many people on the other side you can help, it really takes the focus off of ourselves and helps to really, it's like a good distraction.
Yeah. And you may be grieving right now, but just remember, grieving is the hallway, not the home. Mm-hmm. You may feel like you're at the end, but the end could just be the doorway to your next season of life.
Yeah, so true. I would just encourage you all to read the story of Joseph, read about Daniel, read about David, read where Judas kissed Jesus. Like his betrayal took place with a kiss. It's like you think that person was so close to me. That person was like, Judas kissed Jesus in order for him to be put to death. Like it doesn't get nastier than that, So just really lean into being intentional about your healing and being on the other side of where you are now. Betrayal does not get the final word. Always remember that. God does. He will use your pain and your betrayal for a greater purpose. His word is always restoration, healing, and promotion. If it feels like bondage, if it feels like being stuck, it's not from him. It's not what he wants for you. He died so that you could live in complete freedom. And if what you're in doesn't feel like complete freedom, then there's just some more work and some more time that needs to be put in. So start today. We want all of you that are walking through this place of betrayal or being stuck from betrayal. We really want you to be intentional and pray, sit down with your journal, open your Bible, look up sermons on YouTube about forgiveness, betrayal. You can always message us, social media, reach out, ask questions. Like, we're real people and we're here. And now that our kids are back in school, we can actually respond a lot faster. Just take an intentional step and remember that healing is on the other side and your story is meant to help other people. And on that note, I want to end with this. We had so many people reach out and tell us that they listened to our podcast. I mean, I've never gotten that many messages on Instagram, text, Facebook, all of it. And it made me realize just how many people need to hear this story and need to hear part 2 as well. So I just want to encourage you, if you're listening to this on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or you're watching on YouTube, please leave a 5-star review, hopefully 5 stars. Comment. So if you're on YouTube, I want you to subscribe and leave a comment. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. You can actually write in Apple Podcasts. And then in Spotify, it allows you to leave a 5-star review. And then on Any of them you can subscribe and download. And the reason I ask you to do that so intentionally is because we want more people to hear this. We want more people. The amount of people that reached back because they were helped and they were thanking us for sharing this. That's why we're doing this. So we want more of that so that we can keep sharing stories like this. All right, that's it. See you guys next time.
Bye-bye. Before you go, remember, God can use anything. Even the hardest parts of your story can become seeds for multiplication.
If this episode encouraged you, share it with a friend, leave a review, or subscribe so you never miss a moment of hope and truth.
You can also follow us on Mandate to Multiply on Instagram or mandatetomultiply.com to keep growing with us.
Until next time, trust God, steward well what's in your hand,
and live a life fully multiplied.